the Brittle Bone Society, I hope many of you would appreciate and concur that we've built the foundations of the Brittle Bone Society on very strong partnerships, and we're delighted to have with us all these friends representing a number of rare support organisations with us today. You'll also know that we've mentioned occasionally that we, the Brittle Bone Society, have been privileged to be part of an NHS rare bone scoping group, which we hope will eventually result in producing a service in the NHS. But as we keep underlining, this will not be exclusively for the OI community. And so when that service is provided, it's guaranteed the same healthcare professionals who serve the OI community will also support people joining us here today on this stage. And those groups who work with people such as conditions as hypophosphatasia, X-linked hypophosphatemia, fibrous dysplasia, achondroplasia, all within the Rare Bone Network. So this weekend, as I said, we will touch on a number of the aspirations that we've just talked about. And you know, on that journey, it makes sense that sometimes we join together to ensure that our case is clearer. So we're honoured to have the leaders here from Soft Bones UK, XLH Network, unfortunately not RGA just at the moment, and FDBS UK. We also have, as I say, Ingun Westerheim, privileged to have you with us from OIFE. But before we introduce and let everyone speak on stage, could I now please ask Dr. Kasim Javid to just talk a little bit about setting the scene? So, yeah, okay.
So, thank you very much, Patricia. And I think this is a real strength of the NHS across all four nations, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, as well as England, in how we work together and how the charities are aligning, because we need as much help from the patient groups and patients as well as from the clinicians and researchers to make this happen. So what I'd like to do is to invite Angie Stewart to now give her perspectives on this sort of approach to building better bones across the NHS.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I'm not sure if this microphone's switched on. Obviously it is, oh good, okay. So in 2014, the Brittle Bone Society first started the Building Bridges to Better Bones initiative. And to do that, we reached out and made friends with organisations linked with all the same conditions that Patricia has just listed off, which is fantastic, because it saves me trying to pronounce them. But XLH, HPP and FD. We invited them to our family conferences, which was great because we were all able to mix and share experiences. But recently I attended a patient day that was hosted by Soft Bones UK. Myself and Professor Nick Bishop, who's also a trustee of the Brittle Bone Society, attended the event, and we were pleased to be able to offer them some support. So I think Nick and I felt we were quite a good team, because obviously Nick was able to do the medical side, and I was able to do the lifelong experience of 40 plus years being a member of the Brittle Bone Society, which I think went down really well. So we told them, you know, to hold their nerve. It's tough starting a new support group, but you do eventually get there. And it personally reminded me of all of the hurdles that the Brittle Bone Society had in our early days, and seeing them at a similar stage. And, you know, just to let them know that they're not facing this alone, and to be able to offer that support was fantastic. So obviously with the Brittle Bone Society, we did something right, because we're still here 50 years on. So hopefully they got a lot from that.
Thank you. Heather, would you like to give your perspectives from FDSS?
In terms of the friendships that we've helped collectively improve the involvement in Rudy, that we've worked together with the help of Kasim Javed, they've really been helpful, and actively contribute to other studies like the James Lind Alliance. That has been, again, we've learned so much from each other. The medical professionals we see are the same medical professionals, and it affects us in slightly different ways, but there's some consistencies as well. We're really proud really of the breakthroughs we've realised recently, but we have a lot to learn from the Brittle Bone Society and the other charities as well. The Fibre Dysplasia Support Society recognise a lot of similarities around the treatments of rare bone conditions, including the medical professionals that we actually all see. We're really passionate about this. Brittle bone is obviously hereditary, but fibre dysplasia isn't. But it's the same faulty gene that seems to be kind of causing some issues. And there is different severities of it, people who are touched by it and those who have severe cases of fibre dysplasia as well. What we're keen to do is to work together, because ultimately we'd like to find a cure. That is our dream, is to find a cure. And there's so many similarities that we feel we're stronger together than we are separately. For fibre dysplasia, I think it's 1 in 30,000 people who have fibre dysplasia across the UK. So, as I said, we've got so much to learn from each other. I think we really benefit from working together on this.
Thank you very much, Heather. I'm just going to let Alexandra Jill just to relax and gather herself. I wonder if Alexandra could give a perspective from soft veins.
Thanks for giving me my full title, by the way. I'm Alexandra by birth, but everyone knows me as Sandra, so I'm much more comfortable with that. Going on what Andrew said, my daughter and I were invited to Brittle Bones annual conference in August 2016, and driving up in the car with my grandson and granddaughter, I had a conversation with my daughter around, why are we going here? It's Brittle Bones. Maddox has got soft bones. I don't see the connection at all. And she said, Mum, we all share the same healthcare professionals. And we came and we had a wonderful weekend. It was absolutely fabulous. We watched all the support network, and on the way home that weekend, Soft Bones UK was the foundations, that was the start, and that was the beginning for us. So each of our communities, we tend to share the same NHS clinicians and the same small, select, highly skilled cohort of healthcare professionals. And we got the opportunity to meet more of them through our links with the BBS and by coming along to their events and striking up useful partnerships. We were invited to the 2 successful parliamentaries in Scotland and in London, which was fabulous. People like Professor Ralston, Professor Bishop, Dr. Javed, Dr. Andel, geneticist Dr. Wright. Each group here today has contact with some or all of these fantastic healthcare professionals. They're experts we all share, and it makes sense as we as patient groups do the same and formalise our network. It's a win-win situation. I'm not used to speaking in public. Normally my daughter Meryl has that honour, as you can tell, but she's actually out in Ireland with Alexian this weekend, which is absolutely fabulous. So, on her behalf, thank you, Brittle Bones, and all our lovely healthcare professionals.
Thank you, Sandra. Oliver, would you like to give the perspective from XLH Network UK, and then we'll go to Cure?
Thanks, Nassim. Again, it's wonderful to be invited back to the BBS Society conference, and I think one of the key kind of takeaways for us coming from external other patient organisations is, we really, I really do feel that we get such a better understanding of the complexities of working with multidisciplinary teams, and I think these are the kinds of fast improvements that we need to be making in the UK with healthcare. And so today, I really believe that we should give a pledge and commitment to start a series of planned meetings and talks to see best ways in which we can drive forward care and treatment and new and better service development. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. Jill, have you caught your breath?
First of all, I'd just like to apologise for being late. The traffic wasn't terribly kind to me this morning. Yes, it's a privilege to have been invited here, and I can only see that, in fact, the start of the working relationship between the RGA and the Brittle Bone Society, I'm really hoping will actually start and take off from here. I was invited by Patricia after quite an extended discussion at a tube station, that when we went to a medical meeting earlier this year, and it became very, very clear that many of the obviously cross-disability difficulties that were had within the medical profession. The pathways of care were unclear. The poor experiences were across all areas of disability. There was consistent issues that, again, there were commonalities between all of those. And experiences, good and bad, were similar. And it was also a postcode lottery. I'm sorry to use catchphrases like that, but it's true. Across the country, people across the UK, people have different experiences, good and bad, and it does seem to be where you happen to live and which hospital you go to. I think what's been really critical for me as the chair of the RGA is being able to report back to certainly my members and say, listen, the problems that you're having are not unique to you. Now, I know that's a slightly emotional way of coming forward with this, but I think if people realise that this is not an exclusion as such, but this is an issue across dysplasias and skeletal issues, I think that provides some reassurance in knowing that we're all starting to work together. So it is a privilege to be here. I'm sorry for that entire garbled message, but yes, I'm really hoping to have some good discussions around this throughout the day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Ingrid, would you like to give the European perspective, and please don't mention Brexit more than once.
I promise. First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to join this wonderful conference and important conversation about collaboration. I represent Osteogenesis Imperfecta Federation Europe, which is a European umbrella for OI organizations. We have 19 ordinary European member organizations and 16 international partner organizations spread on all the different continents. And I can confirm, like you guys, we are having conversations on how we can collaborate, both on a European but also on an international level. Yeah, I think you know this photo. It's Crazy Penny hanging out of a cliff. And it fits very well to OIF's vision, which is people with OI living active and independent lives with access to competent healthcare and necessary social support. Because many challenges are similar across Europe, like the need for better coordinated services and pathways, more knowledge about what happens when you get older, a smoother transition between pediatric and adult healthcare, and a great need for more standardized recommendations and guidelines. And not to forget registries and more sharing of data about treatment of OI. In some areas, we see great differences between countries. For instance, when it comes to independent living support, mobility aids, and access to school and higher education. In OIFE, we find it important not only to focus on the problematic issues, but also to highlight the good examples and share best practices. Our mission is to connect and empower organizations, professionals, and individuals to improve lives of people with OI. We do this primarily by growing an international network between all different stakeholders who work with OI and other rare bone diseases. We work with a bunch of different stakeholders in doing this, clinicians and researchers around the world, EURARDIS, the Rare Disease Umbrella Organization, the European Reference Network, ERN Bond, the European Medicines Agency, different scientific conferences like the ICCBH and OI 2020 in Sheffield. We're really looking forward to that. And health technology assessment bodies who decide if they want to pay for our medications or not. In June 2019, OIFE was one of the initiators behind the establishment of the European Rare Bone Forum. I was supposed to say, can you see Meryl and Oliver in the photo? But Meryl has her mother here instead. But it was a very good meeting. And we are aiming for this to be a meeting place for organizations, companies, and others who are dealing with rare bone diseases. I guess you can, yeah, because not only can we learn from other countries on how they deal with OI, we also have a lot in common with other rare bone diseases. It's important to get to know each other better in order to learn from each other and perhaps avoid to do the same mistakes. That looks a bit weird. Similar to the BBS, OIFE gets an increasing amount of requests from different researchers to support them or to find patient representatives for their projects. We do, however, have challenges of meeting the demand. We have become too popular. So we need more people who are interested and who have enough knowledge to fill the different roles. Because of this, we want to develop a capacity building program for organizations who deal with OI and other rare bone diseases. The target group is not only the organizations, because lately we have realized that we need to educate researchers and companies as well on how to succeed with patient engagement in research. And these are just some of the projects we are working directly with, which includes both the projects who are going to tell their status here, and it's very interesting and rewarding. And once a year, all the European delegates of OIFE come together to discuss at our AGM. The next one will be at the beach in Valencia. Unfortunately, we have to be inside and discuss things. And in addition to our AGMs, we host a topical meeting every third year where people with OI come together with professionals to discuss a certain topic which we feel has had too little attention in the scientific community. Sometimes we co-host scientific congresses, and in November 2019, we are co-hosting a conference called Quality of Life for OI in Amsterdam. It's open for both professionals and people with OI parents. And in one of the parallel sessions, we will talk about patient engagement in research, including the role of the organizations. And the OIFE has invited the BBS to be part of the program committee, so we are planning this session together. And if you're interested, check out more information about the conference on this webpage. And I hope to see you in Amsterdam or Sheffield.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I think you can see just from the presentations given by the different patient groups, there's a real drive and energy that hasn't really been here in the UK for a long time to actually move things forward with a special focus on the adults. I'm an adult physician and improving their care. About 5 years ago, we had an idea to have meetings around fibrous dysplasia, and we were very fortunate to get international collaboration. And in 2015, we had a meeting in Oxford. And the big thing that we realized was that every doctor was doing it just slightly different. And the patients were really confused that depending on where you went, defined what care you got, which didn't seem quite right. So we set up a process, and we hit quite a big milestone this year that we've published what we call the Best Practice Management Guideline. And we've got slides for it during the meeting. If we come to the workshop tomorrow, we can talk about it. But it's an online resource, it's free to download, and it gives you what you should expect from your doctor if you have fibrous dysplasia. Because there's no trials, we've got the lovely Topaz and Asteroid study, there's no evidence of what works better than other in terms of treatments or operations, which is different to people with diabetes or heart disease where there's good evidence. So we often depend on people's opinions. And to make sure we weren't following one opinion, we actually got 51 experts. Experts are just people who've seen a lot of the same patient over time. It doesn't mean they do it well or they do badly. And we got 51 experts from over 18 countries to give their opinion. So we now have a single consensus document that's not based on trials, but based on what people think is the best way forward. And it has a list of do's and don'ts for people with fibrous dysplasia. And as chair of the MAB for the next few years, however long Patricia wants me to do, I've committed that we will generate one for adults with OI. and we'll talk about the survey tomorrow and how that fits in. But I think you can see how we'll take the learning we've had from fibrous dysplasia, and it won't take 5 years, it will take 2 years or 1.5 years. We will create for all the adults in the room a pathway so you know what care you should be able to have in the NHS, and then we will rapidly develop these for the other areas, either within the UK or internationally, depending how other politics pan out in the next few months. Because there's so much we have to learn from the doctors and the researchers and the patients and the families and the carers. It's only when we bring everyone together in the room it makes a difference. And I won't speak for too much longer, but on that guideline there were 3 patients and 4 patient groups who were intimately involved in co-producing the document. So we made sure it made sense for them. And I think this is the right time. I was yesterday with NHS England and with British Society for Rheumatology, and we are scoping now, right now, what adult care looks like for the NHS. First in England, but then it can be easily mapped to Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. So we're going to go off into, I'm going off to decide we've got a podcast, I think, soon, which will be quite good fun. But I think if you've got any ideas on the adult pathway and you haven't been on the survey, come to the workshop tomorrow, there's lots more information. And I think we should all raise our hands and really applaud Patricia, Ingen, Angie, Zandra, Jill, Heather and Oliver, because it's only by working together that the NHS can't ignore us. And if we work together, build the evidence and the data, we can really move things forward. So thank you very much, team.